The Dallas housing market has favored sellers for so long that many people have forgotten or maybe never experienced what it is like to buy or sell a home in a normal or balanced housing market. So today's video builds on the one that I posted in September, how to navigate a balanced housing market. Welcome to What Does a Normal Housing Market Look Like? Let's start with the first characteristic of a normal housing market, inventory or months of supply hovering around 6 months. So in Dallas, as of September, there were 4.6 months of housing supply listed for sale. Months of supply simply means how long it would take for all of the homes currently on the market to sell if no listings were added. So while 4.6 months is still below that 6-month threshold, inventory in Dallas neighborhoods varies. Some have more than 6 months of supply, while others have less. Now, as someone who works with buyers and sellers every day, I can tell you most buyers' home searches span multiple neighborhoods. So these areas often compete with each other. So here's an example. One of my current buyers is looking in East Dallas on either side of White Rock Lake, but also in Lake Highlands and Richardson. So effectively, all of those markets are competing for the same buyer. Here's another real life story. A buyer I closed with in September was dead set on Rockwall, where inventory is high. That is until I showed him a newly built home in Lavon. The builder in Lavon was offering a $30,000 buyer credit, which could go towards a price reduction, a rate buy down, or closing costs, or any combination of all three of those. At the end of the day, the new build that offered more space, less maintenance, and that $30,000 incentive won out. If you want to know more about that community in Lavon, there's a link in the video description. So normally when I do these videos, I save my key takeaways for the end, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit today and drop them in as we go. So what does increased inventory mean for sellers? It means more competition. You're not just competing with listings in your neighborhood, but also adjacent areas and nearby cities. Now, that doesn't mean that your home won't sell, but it does mean that your agent needs to closely monitor competing listings that go beyond your immediate area. For buyers, higher inventory means more options. Honestly, buyers haven't had this much selection in over 20 years. So the second hallmark of a normal housing market is that homes take longer to go under contract. In September, it took about 52 days on average for a Dallas home to go under contract. So that's up from 48 days in August and 42 days from a year ago. Historically, since about 2013, the norm for Dallas has been 20 to 60 days on market. Prior to that, it was 60 to 80 days, which was also considered healthy and typical. So what does all this mean? Buyers, you now have the luxury of more time to make decisions about the home that you buy. And sellers, you shouldn't expect your home to sell with multiple offers the second that it hits the market. So that frenzied pace that we saw in 2020 and 2021 was driven by historically low interest rates, not normal market conditions. We're back to a market that moves at a more sustainable pace. The third characteristic of a normal housing market is price stability, meaning sale prices aren't rising or falling rapidly. In September, the average sale price in Dallas was $717,000, up about 6% year over year. Here's a look at average sale price by neighborhood. Now, don't be fooled by that 25% increase in Oak Lawn. Oak Lawn is a super small submarket, so one or two sales can really skew the data. But overall, this level of appreciation aligns with what I've been reporting throughout 2025, and it reflects a market with greater stability than we have seen in years. So for buyers, price stability means planning to stay in your home for at least 5 years before selling, because when appreciation moderates, you can't expect a big profit if you sell too quickly. Those back-to-back years of 10 and 20% appreciation were not normal. They were driven by rapid population growth, corporate relocations, and record low mortgage interest rates. So in Dallas, the normal annual appreciation is 3 to 5%. And it's typically lower in the suburbs where resale homes compete with new construction and builder incentives, like the example that I gave you in Lavon. So since not much has changed since my last update, my key takeaways remain consistent, and I've touched on most of them already. But before I wrap up, I want to briefly address the government shutdown and the softening labor market, and how both could influence housing. Now, unless you're using a USDA loan or you need flood insurance, the shutdown shouldn't directly impact your closing or your home search. But make sure you contact your lender or the lender who you're working with to confirm. What concerns me more than the shutdown is slower job growth that we saw in September and the possibility of delayed labor data during the shutdown. So policymakers rely on that information to set housing and interest rate policy, and without it, they're really flying partially blind. So to be clear, we're not seeing layoffs, but hiring has slowed. And if consumers start to pull back on spending out of caution, that's usually how a recession will typically begin. Now, that being said, I have been in Dallas real estate since the 1990s, and I have watched our market weather multiple economic cycles, including the Great Recession. Now, while many cities saw their values collapse during the Great Recession, Dallas home prices only fell about 10%, and they regained that value within about 18 months. And that's because our economy is diverse and resilient with strong sectors in finance, healthcare, technology, logistics, and energy. So even as I keep a close eye on these trends, I do remain bullish on the Dallas real estate market. Historically, when the broader economy pauses, Dallas goes into a recession later and it comes out faster, and it typically rebounds pretty quickly. That's all I have for you today. As always, if you want to stay informed with real data and real-time insights, please subscribe to my channel or my newsletter. I will be back next month with another Dallas market update to help you and your family make informed decisions. Thanks for watching. I will see you in my next video.